Okay, for the bigger parts, we're zooming out here. Got my finger cots on, ready for surgery. By the way, don't buy these at your horological supply company because they're going to charge you $25 for 10 of these. Go to Walmart, you're going to pay $5 and you're going to get 50 of them. Okay, it's in the medical supply section with all the band-aids and ointments and shit like that. So, moving on. We know that in the first video, the case was open, and you can match up the 3 larger holes with these ones. So we know the case fits in here. Okay, I mean the top plate fits in with the lower plate in this manner. Well, there you go. So like that. We had 2 pivots coming up through here. The little wheel was sitting on the bigger wheel. And then that friction fitting was sticking out here. So we're going to go ahead and get back under the microscope and put these bad boys together. Okay, so putting this guy back together. I don't know if I mentioned, but I looked at the pivot holes earlier through the microscope and they looked surprisingly clear. Okay, so these are the 2 pivot holes we're going to work with. I did this because there are a few others. So I don't know if you see that lineup. 1, 2. Here we go. 1, 2. And so if I remember correctly, this gear here, the longer shaft, is the one that records the tens of miles. And that goes down like, no, that does not go down like that. It goes down like that. There we go. That would otherwise be the second hand if this was a pocket watch. And then this one went pinion and pivot down. Obviously this pinion engages with this gear. Side view is handy. I can't do that with the microscope, so I'm just using my raw sight. That appears to, oh my gosh, look at that. Well, don't look at that, okay. Evidently I didn't look at that gear. So we're engaged here, okay. Now there's this larger one, and this, it's got this tube on there, and you can kind of see there's a shoulder on it. That's going to sit here and just barely clear this gear. So, you know, that might, okay. Trying to get this in the hole. There we go. That seems crooked. Might put it in this way. There we go. No, we don't. There we go. Okay. Okay, we're all connected here. All right. Let me just kind of make sure. Yeah, boy, this is sloppy fitting there. It doesn't mesh that great, but you know, pedometer, you got some better tolerances in pocket watches here, so yeah, I'm not going to worry about that grease up here on this thing here. It's not, at this point, it's just cosmetic. So at this point, that's all that goes into this movement, really. So now we're just going to line up the pivots and pinions. This might be something better to do at my watch desk just because, you know, horology. Wow, look at that. It sat that's cool. If you've ever put watches together, you know that can be a little hard when you get the train in sequence. So let's see here. Let's take out my screws for the top plate. They're probably going to be the only brass screws, and there they are. So I usually document these things ad nauseum, but I figured with as few parts as this has right now, just kind of going on memory, which my memory isn't what it used to be 100 years ago. Okay, all right, how about that? That's cool. So now that everything's in and engaged, we're gonna start putting them in place. And there goes that screw. Just being lazy here. I don't usually work with the microscope. This is relatively new to me, so just bear with me. Okay. Just not tight at all. Not tight at all, because we're gonna first, there's still play in here, you know? So we're gonna just get the screws down to where everything's loose. Oh goodness, come on. And we're gonna make sure, again, that everything's still engaged. And then we're going to tighten it down with a 4-foot torque wrench. Maybe not. I use those on a steam locomotive, not on this thing. Tell you what we're going to do here. Okay, so we're good here. I'm just going to verify. And yes, I do have this on the movement holder because of that second hand that does spit out the backside. Just going to make sure everything looks happy here. See those other two pivots? This one, we're engaged. Oh wow, and it's even turning that here. You see that? So we're good. Yeah, okay. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now that we got these screws down, it depends. I've seen some people say you turn it just the width of the screw further and you're done, but I'm going to say this is where it stops under normal pressure, very light pressure. Hardly any resistance on this, okay? So when it stops, then I think the rule of thumb was the width of the slot. Because, like, why? It's not like there's going to be ants in here trying to take your pocket watch apart. So, yeah, that didn't need even that. So I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. So sometimes, you know, when I'm doing this by memory, I like to just take a quick inventory here and look at my parts and just go through my memory of what came off last and or first. And so I know this was the friction fitting. As a matter of fact, that's the most easily accessible even in the case with the back cap on. So that's going to go last. These are the screws that held the bottom plate of the movement in from the dial side of the case. We got the pendulum, bob, and then the pendulum itself, and then here's the bridge that holds the ratchet wheel on. What else we got here? Okay, there's the hands. That's the last thing. Yeah, that's the spring that goes over the pendulum. This, yeah, where will this go in sequence? Because this is the ratchet wheel. This is going to go onto the pivot that's here. And then this is the gear that's connected to the front face Okay, so when this goes in, this gear is actually sticking out. The second hand, or 100 mile hand, goes on top here. This is going to be what engages with this. Okay, so this goes on the outside of the movement, on the back of the movement before the dial goes on. And here's our ratchet wheel here. So now we know this guy here, this ratchet wheel, this is what engages down here, right? Because you have an entire system down below that's talking to each other, but nothing's talking to anything down here, right? So maybe the pendulum needs to go on next. I'm going to actually pre-lube and put some lubrication on this post here, okay? Because once we get it in, we're not going to get anything in there. So I'm just going to, I have 3 different sets of oilers here. So I'm going to take out this guy and just kind of remind myself, okay, I got some oils and then grease here. So I'm going to take this, I'm not going to do the ultra fine, I'm going to do the medium for this here. And that might be a little much, but hey, who cares, you know? I'm going to put just a little bit less on here. Okay. Apply it to this post. That's all you need. Okay. Then we're going to drop this guy on, which is hard to do looking from above, so I'm going to just try to look from the side here. Okay. There we go. And hopefully it doesn't fall apart when I try to drop it into the movement. We're going to go into this hole. I tried scrubbing that crap off, that giant ring around here. This is just, you know, because it's contacting the movement plate here, it's just nasty. So you know what? I got some grease. I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on here. Not even a lot, but a little bit was going to go a long way. That's partly why this thing's so disgusting. That's a lot of grease. Is because, you know, you don't have wear plates. You don't have like where a lot of this stuff is contacting each other. It's just going to touch the surface. I don't like doing this. I mean, this is sloppy mechanics, but pedometer. Okay, that's enough, because maybe a little bit here. Once it starts moving, it's going to start spreading that grease real easy. Okay, so I'm just going to stick this in here because that's how it's going to go. Okay, then this is going to go on top here like this into that hole, and it's eventually, that was beautiful, eventually going to meet up and mate with the pivot hole down in the bottom. Go ahead and just get these screws started. Okay, I have them here. I know it's blurry, but I can see it, and that's all that matters. 1, 2. These are the screw. These are the screw. These are the screws that go onto the bridge here. Okay. So we're going to get these started. And as we get these started, these are going to start gradually holding in place. In alignment, the pivot, and then as things start to settle down, we'll place those springs in their proper place, and then we're going to drive it home. Come on, boy. Let's do it. Okay. You know, when you're putting stuff together, you need to make sure and verify that everything's operational as you go along. You know, if you put in one wheel in the gear train, move it along. Make sure it's engaging with the others and spinning so that it's not, crooked. So when you put the plates together, you know, or whatever, the caulk or the bridge, that you're not going to break a pivot. Make sure everything's okay. All right, you see that? I can tell these ones are moving, just how they're moving from view here, and then these are clearly moving properly. Now, can you think of something what I missed, and why that screw had to go down a little farther than it felt like it should have? Did you find out what it was? That thing. I forgot to put that thing in there. Trust me, when you start working on watches, you're going to get so used to how this stuff goes. But when you have an unusual little piece like this, then, you know, especially if you didn't make any drawings, take pictures, then you're going to forget some stuff. Okay, that's in. So now this was kind of funky, remember when I tried to pull it off? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold it on here and just start driving it home. That already felt good. I know, that was weird. Okay. So that's here in the hole. Okay, we know we're operational. So now I'm going to drive it home. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. So we know that this goes behind this post, but because it slides, it needs grease. If it spins, it needs oil. If it slides, it needs grease. Okay. Not a lot. A little goes a long way. I don't even know if this oiler will go in there. This is so weird. I'm like 8 feet away from it. Okay, here we go. That's all you need. That's a bucket worth if you scale it down. Okay. There's a hair on there. Jesus. This is the hairiest thing I've ever worked on. Well, that's not true. Okay, look at that. So what happened? Did you see that? Let me see. Our pendulum is now even level. Even when I was holding it vertically, it wasn't springing back all the way. But now, look at that. And like I said, as you put parts together, verify they're doing their job. Oh, look at that. let's just verify this. Did that fall underneath? It looks like it went underneath the gear again. No, it didn't. It's just the way the reflection is. Okay, so we're looking at here and here. And as I move this pendulum, you see those lower springs walking it? Now they're going to push, and then now those upper springs are walking it. Now we know that our pedometer is functional, okay? The instrumental readout is not done yet, but we'll get there in a sec.